All right. Good to see you.
Hope you settled back into your school routine and everyone in your house is healthy.
Well, if you know anyone who's sick, we're going to pray for them today.
Okay.
By the way, are there any birthdays today?
Yes, we actually have two birthdays to celebrate. Alexia's birthday is January 9th, and Karsten's half birthday is January 18th.
January 18th, let's see, 6 months from there, July 18th would be his real birthday, but his half birthday's this month.
Correct.
All right. Well, help us sing happy birthday. You folks at home, sing along with us. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Alexia and Karsten. Happy birthday to you.
We'll send a small birthday prize home with you in the next resource pack pickup, which is coming up pretty soon. It's January 23rd and 24th. Oh, you better check on Rover.
Okay, let me go see. He was napping in front of the fireplace last time I saw him. Check.
Okay, I'll update the kids on the bean jar while you're gone. Look how close we are to the third line. We're almost over it. We've crossed the second line already. That'll be in the next resource packet, a prize. But we're very close to the third line. Oh, here comes Mrs. Womer and Rover. I better make some room for them.
All right. Well, he was sound asleep in front of the fire like I thought he'd be.
It's so cozy on a cold winter morning to be in front of the fireplace. But I'm glad you woke me up because I don't want to miss it being able to tell the kids some jokes.
All right. Well, let's see. What joke do you have for us today?
Why couldn't they eat apples on Noah's Ark?
Why couldn't they eat apples? They must have had a lot of food because they had so many animals, but why couldn't they eat apples?
Because they only came in pairs.
They only came in pairs, like pears 2 by 2 and like pears the kind of fruit. That's pretty funny. Do you have any more? Do you have another one for us today?
This is a story about a mother and her two sons, Kevin, 7, and Ryan, 3. The mother was making pancakes one morning, and the two boys began to argue over who would get the first pancake.
Yeah, my kids used to do that too.
But the mother didn't get mad. Instead, she thought this might be a good opportunity to teach the boys a lesson. So she said to them, if Jesus were sitting here, he would say, let my brother have the first pancake. I can wait. Kevin, the older, turned to his younger brother and said, Ryan, you be Jesus.
Oh, I get it. If Ryan acted like Jesus, then Kevin would get the first pancake.
Yes, but I don't think that's what the mother wanted to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Probably not. But it does make a funny story. Well, thanks for spending time with us today.
It was fun telling Bible jokes with you again. Bye for now and see you in 2 weeks.
That's right. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks, Rover, for getting us off to a really nice start, as you do every week. We appreciate that. Today, our opening prayer is going to be a prayer of intercession. And an intercession is something that you want God to help you with. Normally, when we're meeting together, every single person in the class gets to name something they want to pray about.
Well, this time we're going to use your comments from the discussion board as our intentions. We asked you what you hope for in the new year. So we're going to lift up those hopes as our intentions.
Okay. And after each intention, we're going to all respond, Lord, hear our prayer.
All right, but we always start our prayer with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. That grandparents and grandchildren get to visit each other. Lord, hear our prayer.
That we get to hug family members that we haven't seen in a while.
Lord, hear our prayer. That we get to play with our friends. Lord, hear our prayer.
That we have time to clean our bedrooms or garages.
Lord, hear our prayer. That everyone in our family is healthy. Lord, hear our prayer.
That the world will become a more peaceful place.
Lord, hear our prayer. That it will be safe not to wear a mask. Lord, hear our prayer.
That we will all feel blessed in the new year.
Lord, hear our prayer. Well, you guys created some really nice intentions. That was a beautiful prayer.
Right. Thank you so much. So for this next part of the lesson, you're going to need your Bible. So if you don't have it, push pause on the video and go get it and come back and restart the video.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about symbolic language in the Bible. What do you think? Is everything in the Bible true?
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think everything in the Bible's true. But this is a little bit different. Is everything in the Bible factual?
Huh. I don't know. What do you think?
No.
No? What do you mean?
Well, I suggest that everything in the Bible is true, but not necessarily fact. And we're going to sort of unpack that and explain it a little bit.
Well, that would be good because it doesn't seem to make that much sense to me.
Well, in biblical times, when the Bible was written, the meaning of a story was the most important thing, and the actual facts were of secondary importance. They weren't as important. Now today, like if you're reading an article in the newspaper, the facts are very important. But even today, we use symbolic language sometimes.
Really?
Right. Now listen to this story. So symbolic language is words that don't actually have the meaning that is stated there. So you'll understand as I read. Here's the story. My kids were driving me up the wall. There I was, trying to get to church on time, and these little rugrats were tearing up the place. I was pulling my hair out to keep some kind of order in the house, and they didn't give a hoot. To top it all off, when we left the house, it was raining cats and dogs. Since I left my umbrella at work, I was up the creek without a paddle. So I had to hot-foot it to the car while juggling these two kids. Naturally, we almost drowned. Then, when we got to within a block of the church, this train with 1,000,000 cars crawled across the street at about 2 feet an hour. I just about blew my top. After waiting there forever, we finally got to church and sat down just as Father was giving a talk about getting to church on time. I just about died.
Well, I see what you mean because I understand completely what was going on, but there was a lot of things in there that weren't actually facts.
Right. If you don't understand the symbolic meaning, the story doesn't make any sense. Like where it said, my kids were driving me up the wall. If you thought that meant I was taking my car and driving up the wall, you'd go like, what's happening? It doesn't make any sense. But you understand driving me up the wall means like making me crazy and annoyed and irritated.
Right. So I think the Bible has some places where it has symbolic language like that. In fact, there's a story that I think we should read that sometimes confuses me, or used to, but I think I understand it now.
Right. But now remember, when the Bible was written, the people in those days understood what those expressions and the symbolic language meant.
Oh.
But sometimes we don't, and that's what we talked about. We have to learn how to read the Bible. We have to understand what those words meant to the people at that time.
Right. So let's read this Bible passage, and I'll give you a little hint. The GEN stands for Genesis, and if you don't know that, the word Genesis means beginning, and so this is actually at the very beginning of the Bible. It's the very first book, so you can turn to that first tab that says Genesis. And we're going to start with chapter 1, verse 1. So that's the very beginning of the Bible.
All right, so find the Genesis tab, it's pink. And if we go to chapter 1, it's on page 20. So follow along in your Bible. And as we read the story, I want you to listen carefully for things that are repeated over and over. There's a few things that the story has that's repeated. I want you to listen for those things.
In the beginning, when God created the universe, the earth was formless and desolate. The raging ocean that covered everything was engulfed in total darkness, and the Spirit of God was moving over the water. Then God commanded, "Let there be light," and light appeared. God was pleased with what he saw. Then he separated the light from the darkness, and he named the light day and the darkness night. Evening passed and morning came. That was the first day. Then God commanded, "Let there be a dome to divide the water and to keep it in 2 separate places." And it was done. So God made a dome, and it separated the water under it from the water above it. He named the dome Sky. Evening passed and morning came. That was the second day. Then God commanded, "Let the water below the sky come together in one place, so that the land will appear." And it was done. He named the land earth, and the water which had come together he named sea. And God was pleased with what he saw. Then he commanded, "Let the earth produce all kinds of plants, those that bear grain and those that bear fruit." And it was done. So the earth produced all kinds of plants, and God was pleased with what he saw. Evening passed, and morning came. That was the third day. Then God commanded, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate day from night, and to show the time when days, years, and religious festivals begin. They will shine in the sky to give light to the earth." And it was done. So God made the two larger lights, the sun to rule over the day, and the moon to rule over the night. He also made the stars. He placed the lights in the sky to shine on the earth, to rule over the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God was pleased with what he saw. Evening passed, and morning came. That was the fourth day. Then God commanded, "Let the water be filled with many kinds of living beings, and let the air be filled with birds." So God created the great sea monsters, all kinds of creatures that live in the water, and all kinds of birds. And God was pleased with what he saw. He blessed them all and told the creatures that live in the water to reproduce and to fill the sea, and he told the birds to increase in number. Evening passed, and morning came. That was the fifth day. Then God commanded, "Let the earth produce all kinds of animal life, domestic and wild, large and small." And it was done. So God made them all, and he was pleased with what he saw. Then God said, "And now we will make human beings. They will be just like us and resemble us. They will have power over the fish, the birds, and all animals, domestic and wild, large and small." So God created human beings, making them to be like himself. He created them male and female, blessed them and said, "Have many children, so that your descendants will live all over the earth and bring it under control. I am putting you in charge of the fish, the birds, and all the wild animals. I provided all kinds of grain and all kinds of fruit for you to eat. But for the wild animals and for all the birds, I have provided grass and leafy plants for food." And it was done. God looked at everything he had made, and he was very pleased. Evening passed, and morning came. That was the sixth day. And so the whole universe was completed. By the seventh day, God finished what he had been doing and stopped working. He blessed the seventh day and set it apart as a special day, because by that day he had completed his creation and stopped working. And this is how the universe was created.
All right. Well, reading that, did you hear anything that was repeated?
Well, yes, it said over and over that evening passed and morning came, and that was the blank, first, second, third day.
Right. Okay, so he's talking about each day. But as you know from science class, the world wasn't actually created in 7 regular 24-hour days like we know them.
So you think the 7 days in that story were symbolic for something else?
Right. The whole story, from the first day to the 7th day, just shows that God's creation was planned, and he did it in order, and he did it on purpose.
Well, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, the way the story is told, it's clear that God wasn't just acting in some random, haphazard way. He had a plan. He carried out his plan in an ordered fashion. Well, what if he'd made the fish before he made the sea?
That wouldn't have worked.
Right, that wouldn't have worked at all. But he didn't do that. He had a plan. He separated the sky from the earth and so on. And then humans came at the end, and he created a wonderful place for us to live.
So his overall purpose was to create a wonderful place for humans to live.
Right.
Ah. And there was another thing that it kept saying over and over again. It always said that God was pleased with what he did.
Right. Each day, God looked at what he created and he was pleased. You're right. So 7 times on the 7 days it said God was pleased. So we know that God's especially proud of everything he made, and he saw that it was good. So even some creatures that we might think are negative, like mosquitoes or bumblebees, they still have a place. and God sees them as good. And the same goes for someone at school who you don't like, or someone who lives in an enemy country. Next time you're down on yourself or someone else, remember that everyone has a bad day, but remember that God was pleased with everything he made. He's pleased with all of his creation.
So he loves everybody.
He loves everybody and everything in his creation.
That's good to know, and especially on days when I'm feeling really down, I can remember that I know that God really loves me.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Go ahead.
Well, we enjoyed spending time with you today. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to complete the lesson questions for today's lesson and to post something on the discussion board.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn about what everybody's favorite animal is. Speaking of God creating the animals.
Oh, yes. Good.
And your parents are going to lead you in an art activity where you draw from a symbolic idiom.
What's an idiom?
Well, an idiom is an expression like we were talking about in the story, where it uses words. Like, for example, if I say, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to hit the sack. What do you think I'm saying?
Well, you're going to go to bed.
Right. So hit the sack is an expression that means go to bed. But what if somebody who didn't know English was hearing that? They might think that I meant this.
To actually hit a big sack?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that would be funny. But we know that he's actually meaning he's going to go to bed. So when we're reading the Bible, we have to remember that their language in the day of the people who were writing the Bible, they had symbolic language and idioms that they used, and we have to understand what they meant by them.
Okay.
So maybe it's not actually true that I'm hitting the sack, but it is true that I'm going to bed.
Okay. So your parents are hopefully going to help you do that activity. They have a list of idioms that you can pick from. After you do your drawing, we'd like to have your parents take a picture of your drawing and send it to us via email. And then 2 weeks from now, when we have our next video, we'll hold your pictures up and let you see what they look like.
All right.
So you can see what some of the other kids drew.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you drew. Go ahead and send those to us.
That'd be great. So next week, we do not have a class. So we won't see you for 2 weeks. But between now and then, your parents will be picking up the next resource packet. That'll be on January 23rd and 24th.
And the bean prize for crossing the second line will be included. And of course, any birthdays we've celebrated, they'll get an extra prize.
That's right. So enjoy your week off, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
We're going to talk about numbers in the Bible and what they mean.
Right.
But what was this week's question that you held up at the beginning?
Well, the question was, is everything in the Bible true?
So yes, everything in the Bible is true, but it's not necessarily fact.
Well, that makes sense to me now. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, have a good couple weeks, and God bless you.